Let's say that you're out one night walking down the street and it's about 1 o'clock in the morning and the police pull up alongside of you. They get out of their car and they ask to talk to you. You run from the police. You say you're not going to be harassed tonight. The police call for backup and they chase you. They catch you a short time later after a brief foot chase. One of the officers tells the others that he saw you reaching for your waistband as they were chasing you, and he thinks that you might have put something in the bushes. He tells the other officer to go and search the path that you ran by. Less than 15 seconds later, the police locate a weapon in the bushes that you ran directly by. You're arrested and charged with unlawful possession of a weapon. Your case goes to trial. You decide to have a bench trial before a judge instead of a jury. The judge finds you not guilty because he says the police could not say that they saw you with the weapon and they never saw you throw it in the bushes. You call a civil rights attorney and you say that you want to bring a false arrest lawsuit against the officers that arrested you because you say they put a false case on you. If you're the attorney, do you take this case? Well, this is the kind of call I get a lot, and I can tell you that I did not take this case. Now, let me tell you why. So I get calls all the time from people all across the country, and they tell me some pretty bad things that have happened to them, some really horrific things, and they want to know if they have a case and if I'll take it for them. And many times I have to tell them that they don't have a case, and I have to explain to them why I'm not going to take their case. And it's not because I don't think that what happened to them was wrong, or it's not because I think that they deserved it. It's because as a lawyer, I have to do a different assessment of what happened to them that goes beyond them. I'm angry and I'm upset about how the police treated me, or I beat my case and I know I'm going to win my lawsuit. I have to consider other factors. And there's a 3-part analysis that I do before I take any case. So let's use the example that I just gave you to go through that 3-part analysis. First, was there a legal violation? So in this case, I have to ask the question, was there a violation of the 4th Amendment? Was this person unlawfully seized without probable cause and arrested? Because that's all a false arrest is. It's an unlawful seizure under the 4th Amendment. Did the police arrest him without probable cause? Now, he would say yes, absolutely. He would say, I beat my case, so that means it was unlawful and that they had no probable cause. And then I have to explain to him that a false arrest case is not about guilt. It's about probable cause to arrest. So I have to explain to him that the police don't need to prove that you're guilty when they arrest you. The only thing that the police have to show is that there was probable cause to arrest you for the crime. Or put another way, the police must have sufficient information to believe that a crime has been committed at the time of arrest. So listen to that one more time. All they have to show is that there was sufficient evidence to believe that a crime was committed at the time they arrested you. They do not have to prove that they're going to prove you guilty at a trial 2 years later. Probable cause in a false arrest case is only about the time of arrest. Probable cause is less than guilt. So in this scenario, I think that the police have probable cause to arrest him. But so that we can continue going through this analysis with you, let's say that I think that there was an argument to be made that the police lack probable cause. So that takes us to the second part of our analysis. Do I think that I can win this case at trial in front of a jury? That's the second part, right? Because not all cases settle. In fact, cities like Chicago fight these cases really hard, and they have absolutely no problem taking the case to trial. So in this case, the client is still sticking to the fact that he says, I didn't have the weapon, I was found not guilty, they are putting this case on me, and I want to go to trial, I don't care. He says, I'm willing to take this case before a jury. And he says that the police department has a history of putting cases on black people and putting weapons on people, and I don't care, the jury's going to believe me. He is adamant, he's sticking to this like 100%. I say, okay, I believe you. But then I hit him with that second part of this kind of analysis for part 2, which is I have to tell him that civil rights cases in federal court are not about being in front of a jury of people who come from your neighborhood. I say the federal jury is made up of people who don't live in your city. They are not people who live in the same places that you and I live. I say they come from people from all across the state. Sometimes a federal district can cover a fourth or even a half of a state. And I have to ask him, do you think that 8 to 12 people who don't look like us, who don't come from the same neighborhood as us, who don't, believe the same values we have, do you think they're going to believe you? Do you think they're going to believe that the police planted a weapon on you in the bushes at 1 a.m. in the morning just to lock you up? Will they believe that this story is true if we take this to trial? Who do you think they're going to believe if it's a contest of believability? The officers, right? They're not going to believe that story. So, but let's just say for the sake of argument, so we can get to the third part of the analysis, that I think that this is a case that I could possibly win because I want to go through this entire analysis with you. So let's say I tell them, you know what? I think there's a chance that I might be able to win this case for you at trial. That gets us to the third part of the analysis. How much do I think it's going to take to litigate this case versus how much the case is actually worth? Okay, because that's very important. So civil rights cases are aggressively litigated. I mean, they can be really expensive too. And there are times when you have to spend tens of thousands of dollars on court reporters and expert witnesses and transcripts just for a single case. And all of this is being paid on the front end by the attorney, not by the client. Right? So the client doesn't front any cost. The attorney has to pay all of this up front, and then that money will be deducted out of any settlement or judgment that a client may get later. So the attorney has to think about these things before he or she takes a case. So in the example that I just gave you, I estimate that I would probably spend anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 to depose and question witnesses who were on the scene, to order transcripts, and possibly retain expert witnesses to testify about things like police procedure and police practices. So this could be expensive. I also estimate that I will spend probably around 300 hours working on this case if it were to go to trial, and maybe even more time because I anticipate that the officer's attorneys are going to file motions to try to get this case dismissed. And that's going to take even more time. So it could actually end up being closer to 400 hours that I spend on this case. So we have $20,000 of upfront costs plus the amount of time spent litigating the case. So then it goes to, well, how much is this case worth? Right? Well, the client didn't spend any time in custody because we have to do this thing called the analysis of damages, which is how much is the case worth? What happened to you and how much is it worth, right? That's what damages are. So now I'm trying to figure out, well, how much do I think this case is actually worth? So I started looking at, well, what happened to the client? Well, the case lasted for 6 months and he went to court 5 times. He spent no time in jail really. And he had a public defender, so he didn't have to spend any money to hire a private attorney. So then I go, well, how much do I think a city like Chicago would pay to settle a case like this? And in order to do that, I need to go and look at the past settlements. I have to look at other false arrest cases where they have similar claims as the person who I'm talking to. I have to find cases that are similar to where somebody had a weapon, they were charged for, the case was dismissed, and they didn't spend any time in custody. I have to find those cases and then look to see how much this city paid to settle similar cases like this. And I find that maybe they paid $10,000 just to make cases like this go away. Right? Then I have to think, okay, well, let's say they don't settle the case. How much would a jury award if this case were to go to trial and I were able to win? So then I do the same thing. I have to go to what's called the jury verdicts reports and look at cases that went to trial with similar false arrest cases where a weapon was involved, similar facts, no time in custody, and the case was dismissed. And I look and I find out that I've seen the cases where, let's say, the jury heard these facts and awarded maybe $20,000 or $30,000. But you have to remember, the client's not going to get all that money up front because of the $20,000 I spent litigating the case. That has to be deducted from the amount that the client would get in the end. So because of this, the client may end up actually not getting any money. And I have to tell the client that, no, I'm not going to take this case because I'm a lawyer that does not believe in taking a case and getting a settlement or a verdict and taking all of my client's money. I do not agree with that practice. A lot of lawyers do it. It's not something that I do, but some lawyers do that. But if I think there's a chance that I'm going to get the majority of the money from a case, I'm not going to take the client. I'm not going to take the case. I'm not going to leave my client out there where he or she is leaving with nothing at all. So I'm going to say I'm not going to take this case. So that ends our analysis right there for that 3-part analysis where I'm not going to take the case. I know what you're saying. You're probably saying like, Julian, that guy had a weapon and you should reject that case. He's guilty of sin. Okay, fine. Well, let's change the facts a little bit. Let's say that you're riding in the vehicle with your friend and you're the passenger in the vehicle. You're in the passenger seat and your friend is driving. Your friend makes an illegal U-turn and the police pull you over. The car smells like weed. You both tell the police that you have weed on you. The police say that they don't care about the weed and that if that's all you have, they'll let you go. So the police take you and your friend out of the car and they search it. The police search you and you have a small bag of weed in your pocket. They then search the car and they find a weapon that was hidden under your seat, the passenger seat. You didn't even know the weapon was there. The police ask you and your friend who the weapon belongs to. You say that it wasn't yours and your friend says the same thing. When no one admits to the weapon, the police ask you, who is it again? So then, with no one admitting, they arrest you for unlawfully possessing the weapon. You spend the next year in jail awaiting trial. On the day of trial, the case is dismissed after it was discovered that the weapon was legally registered to your friend's girlfriend. He just didn't want to say anything. You want to file a false arrest case against the officers. Do you take this case? I reject the case. Let's go through the same analysis that I just did before. So first, was there a legal violation, right? Was there a violation of the 4th Amendment for unlawful seizure? You say that, hey, look, man, the police had no reason to put that weapon on me and they didn't do any investigation before arresting me. I say, you're right, but you had weed on you. And then you say, well, Julian, weed is legal in Illinois. And the officer said that he would not arrest me for that. And that I remind you that marijuana bought from a dispensary is illegal in Illinois and that it cannot be consumed outside of your home and that it must be kept in the original container sealed if you're transporting it. The weed you had on you was in a small baggie and was not purchased from the dispensary. I'll also tell you that even though the police did not arrest you for the weed, they still have probable cause. And the law says that when the officer has probable cause to arrest you for one crime, it does not matter if he falsely arrests you for another crime, because probable cause to arrest for any crime defeats a false arrest claim. And I can't take your case. This ends the analysis right there. There are so many reasons why a lawyer decides to take or reject a case, but this is why it's so important to always speak to an experienced attorney that knows what they're talking about. You just cannot do this whole thing like, well, I talked to my auntie, I talked to my cousin, I talked to my cellie. What I tell people all the time is like, I'm a lawyer. I went to law school. I passed the bar exam. I've appeared in hundreds, maybe even 1,000+ cases. I know what I'm doing, right? Your auntie, it's not a lawyer. Your cellie, who you talked to when you were locked up, if that person knew what they were doing, they wouldn't be locked up. Maybe you shouldn't be talking to that person. Talk to somebody who knows what they're doing. Talk to an experienced attorney so that you can get the best advice possible. It isn't about like, they put that on me, I'm mad, I'm wrong. Because what can end up happening is that sometimes you can hire the wrong attorney and they'll take your case and you get to trial and you lose and you end up owing the officers and the city money for the cost that they spent litigating the case, right? So now you actually in the hole. It's best to talk to somebody who knows what they're doing. Hey, listen, I hope that this video has been helpful to you. Drop me a comment down below and let me know if you learned anything from it. And stay tuned for the next videos coming out just like this. Thanks a lot.